just want to fucking bond with you guys. But you're like, start with the recording. It's all business. Since when did we not become friends in real life?
Now that I'm healthy again, I'm back to work.
Whoa, you sound worse.
Yeah.
you sound like you got worse.
Yeah, it's almost like I've been on a cruise ship for 10 days and my throat is the size.
I don't know. I just liked how you sounded.
That episode.
Yeah, how do you did? Oh, the cruise ship episode. We forgot to mention during that episode you were on a cruise ship. That's probably why you sounded so weird.
Yeah,
he was on the other side of the equator, so it sounds different over there.
Yeah, your voice inverts. And so if it's like a really low deep voice, it becomes a higher voice. And if it's really like gravelly, it gets really smooth.
You were really funny though. Like I really want you to keep bringing that energy.
You
did a lot of research. You had a lot of good points.
Yeah, I really think it was probably the funniest, the smartest, and the most like intent I have ever been on this podcast.
Definitely the last one. Definitely intent.
Anyway, audience, if you're confused, you should listen to our last episode 90. We talked about movie trailers, and Alex was a little bit different.
Genuinely very funny episode. Love that episode.
And nothing was strange other than that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so with that, hello and welcome back. We're the Tough Cut Podcast. And I'm Matthew.
I'm Alex.
I'm Jakers.
And this is episode 91.
Wow.
Part 1 of the Jake bracket.
Woo! Guys, we're in our 90s.
Yeah. Dang, almost 100. That big 100 special.
That's crazy. Yeah, we talked
Alex,
about...
you did say last time that you were going to prep something.
Yeah, we talked about what it was, and I don't really remember. I did re-listen to the episode. I don't remember, though, what I said, but it was something
we were
going to
live stream us hanging from a cliff.
Yeah, recording
anyway,
hanging
we're
from a cliff.
Really elaborate jokes. You need to listen to last episode to understand. We're just on that kick today. But yeah, it's the Jake bracket. Which Alex, what's the Jake bracket?
I love that Alex is describing.
Yeah, I love. Well, especially okay. So here's the lowdown.
It's his job. It's his job.
This is my job, Jake, and I don't care that this bracket's about you. This is my time to talk.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Good.
Dead stop. Nothing else.
This is the Jake bracket. Jake picked all of these movies.
What?
Damn straight.
Truth be told, I don't know if Jake picked these movies because they're important to him. I don't know if he picked them because he likes them or if he picked them because he thinks that they describe him in some way. It could be all of the above. The important thing to know is that Jake picked every single one of these movies, and we're going to talk about them.
How are we gonna be voting about them? You know, how are we gonna? What are you guys?
I think that's something that we have to figure out, right? Like we talked about it a little bit, but I mean, I kind of like the idea that the whole intent behind this is that these are movies that are important to Jake, but that also like reveal something fundamental about him, and we get to decide what these movies reveal about him, and also we get to decide like what that factor of Jake. Like, if we think it is a more important factor about him compared to like what the other movie reveals, it's kind of the way
that's
that
a really interesting angle.
Yeah,
I should have picked Mouse Hunt. I fucked up, guys. It would have been too easy of a bracket.
I mean, it would have been one episode long.
Yeah,
we would have known immediately what the finale should have been.
Yeah. So that's where I'm coming into this bracket from. I think it's.
I know. Yeah. I'm kind of conflicted because, well, one, spoilers. We'll be spoiling these movies, and I guess two, we'll be spoiling Jake's inner psyche. We'll be psychoanalyzing me. I don't know how I'm gonna vote. I picked all these movies. I adore all these movies, and I should probably go last for every single vote. I would assume.
Yeah,
I think that's probably just a heads up for a content warning. It's such a beautiful day. It does tackle some pretty serious mental health issues and can be difficult for people either knowing someone close to them struggling through that themselves or anything like that. So just keep an eye out for that if you do decide to watch it. It is a beautiful depiction in my opinion, but it can be very intense for viewers. So without further ado, I guess I'll introduce our first matchup. I got a lot to do.
We've got you working overtime on your own bracket.
I know.
How'd this happen?
But you guys get to you have to make the tough decisions. So
that's true.
Well, let's get right into it. It's Clue in 1985, directed by Jonathan Lynn. This is based on the board game. Its 6 guests are anonymously invited to a strange mansion for dinner, but after their host is killed, they must cooperate with the staff to identify the murderer as the bodies keep piling up. So, yeah, I think actually it would be a great exercise in the Jacket, rather than me explain why I picked these movies, for you guys to guess why I picked these movies and if you enjoyed it. So, you know,
I can take that up the top. It's Tim Curry being kind of like wacky and wild. Like, you've talked at length on this show about how important Tim Curry is as as an actor, as a creative, and just like so many other things. And you just get so much good Tim Curry in this movie. I had a lot of fun watching Clue. It is wild how much this feels like somebody sat down to write a giant comedy sketch about the board game Clue. It even ends with like a sketch button, like a ringer joke, and it's like, oh my god.
Perfect for us.
Exactly. This was really, really fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's definitely, this movie was picked because Tim Curry is in it and it is wonderful. I love Clue. I think it's a great movie. I do think some of the jokes are a little dated. I think some of the dialogue, sometimes like the way the jokes like are presented is a little bit dated too, but like I don't mind it. It gives the movie so much character. It's great. It's a wonderful movie.
Love it. Okay.
How close were we to being on point there, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, Tim Curry's a huge factor. I had to have at least one Tim Curry movie on here if I wasn't gonna, include any. I also just think Clue was one of those first movies I watched as a kid that I like. It was like a double feature. I remember it was Clue and then Rocky, and I stayed home because I was sick. Yeah, weird time in Jake's head. I don't know if at that time I put together that Tim Curry was in both those movies, but I loved both of them, and then I found out it was cousin.
Who's Tim Curry in Rocky?
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were saying Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, that would be
and I was
a very
so
crazy double
confused.
feature.
I was like, what?
Imagine if Tim Curry played Rocky Balboa. But yeah, I just think it has like this level of like, actually Matthew kind of described it really well. It plays like a sketch. It's just very fast paced, very like, everyone's just giving a very fun and kooky performance. I think there's so many quotable scenes. I think everyone's having a lot of fun. Some things are dated, but I think it serves in its favor, honestly. It was also something that was really cool going back to when I was older, seeing how like when they first came out, they played the different endings in different theaters across.
Just like such a good bit.
Great marketing. So like good. You would be talking about the movie being like, oh my God, this was the killer. And like, nope, I didn't see that ending. And I love that. Like,
it's a bit that unfriended dark web would go on to steal.
Please. That's the second time is just unfriended going to be.
Hey, the other one might get cut from the episode, so the audience will never know what I said the first time.
This isn't the Matthew bracket. I know if it's the Matthew bracket, unfriended would be top of the list.
Whoa! Don't put that slander in this.
Yeah. I'll introduce the next one. We'll get into it.
Yes, talk so much. Go ahead.
So, The Muppets. We did it, Joe. The Muppets 2011, directed by James Bobin. Fun fact, whenever I kept trying to type this, it kept autocorrecting to Tobin. And I think it's strictly because of Tobin Bell, because of, again, Matthew, for another one of his icons in movies that he loves.
Of course.
Incredible.
That one's true, though.
That one is true. You do love Saw 6.
Anyway.
All right, this one is about a Muppet fanatic with his brother and it's Jason Segel. The other's an actual Muppet, and the Muppet gang is they're all apart. They're gone now. They're not together. But when they go, they find out that there's an evil oil baron who's going to take over the Muppet Studios.
It sounds like you're making up a movie on the top of your head.
It literally does.
It literally sounds like you're just like riffing, like, and his brother was a Muppet, and Jason Segel was in it, and there's an evil oil baron.
Jack Black's gonna be in the movie,
and they're gonna kidnap him. The Muppets are gonna take him. It sounds like a parody. It sounds like we're making this up.
Yeah,
but this is the honest to God plot of the film.
It's incredible.
Honest to God plot of the film. You guys, I mean, let's hear what you guys say before I put my 2 cents in.
Wow, Jake, you didn't even mention that they're gonna put on a show to like raise money to save the Muppets. Like, you didn't mention like the actual plot of the movie at all. This one's great. Jake obviously picked it because it's a Muppet movie, and he had already done Muppet Treasure Island, which has Tim Curry in it. So he picked.
This is true.
He picked this one. I think this is a great movie. I remember the first time I saw it in theaters when it came out, because I like was not a big Muppet kid. I didn't have like any real connection to any of the Muppets. I wasn't really like, I hadn't really seen any of the movies. Like, I knew about the Muppets tangentially. And so I watched this movie, and it is very clearly a love letter written by fans of the Muppets. Like, people who love the Muppets are going to love this movie, and I had a great time with it. It's like such a great introduction to them at the same time. Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah, diving in as the least familiar with the Muppet films. This was my first time seeing this movie.
Really?
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Really?
Wow!
Let's go!
Basically, every single Muppet movie you show to me will be like the first time I've seen it.
Oh, I'm pitching every single. We're gonna do like.
And this was so much fun.
Dude,
and it also. So, okay, audience, if you decide to watch along with us, especially for someone who knows Jake in real life, you'll quickly come to realize how many of his jokes he uses constantly just come from the films he loves.
Yeah, totally.
Very true.
It was like, yeah, that's just something that's going to happen.
Which one? Which joke?
I can't think of it off the top of my head, because every time I think of the fact that your jokes come from movies you reference, I just go back to the fact that there were so many jokes I knew you for years saying, and then I fucking rewatched Surf's Up, of all things, and it's just like there's like 6 Jake bits in Surf's Up, and I'm like, are you joking?
I tricked Matthew into thinking I'm funny, so he'll like be my friend.
But I mean, the one that like obviously comes to mind, Man or a Muppet, you're constantly posing this question, and it's just a giant musical number, which I did technically know was like a song. But like getting to actually see the song, wow, it's so fun.
Oscar-winning song, by the way.
Great.
Whoa, it deserves it. It's so good.
This is so good. The music in this movie is incredible.
Oh my god, yes. Oh my god. And Brett McKenzie from Fly the Conchords is the one who wrote it. And
wow,
that makes sense.
Yeah. Right? Love Fly the Conchords. If they had a movie, it'd probably be on here. This is the closest thing I think we got.
Like, this movie's absurd. It's a lot of fun. Honestly, you know what? Like, launching into talking about these 2 films, unless you had more you wanted to add.
No, like, I'd love it.
This matchup is like divinely inspired.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Like, they're very different movies, but they carry about them some shared energy. Like, there's like a little bit of just like manic zest in both of them. And like, baby. I think, some of that, I was going to say, some of that is just like imbued into the characters of like watching a Muppet movie. There's just like a little bit of manic energy in those Muppets, no matter where you put them. Mm-hmm. Tim Curry, there's a little bit of manic energy, basically wherever you put them. Jake, a little bit of manic energy, and it makes these movies so delightful to watch. They're just like funny and charming in a lot of ways. So like taking these in that realm of things, like, how do we feel about the comedy that's here? Do we think one is necessarily funnier than the other? Do we just think they have different approaches to comedy? Like, how do we make heads or tails of that?
Well, I think it's interesting. They're both so punny. You know?
They're both like, witty punny movies.
Witty.
Yeah, very, very witty.
Mm-hmm. The dialogue is so quick. It's hard, like, I want to go. My instinct for this is to like try and narrow in like which one is more of a Jake movie. Like, when I see this movie, does this encapsulate Jake as a human being? And I feel like there's something in both of them that I really like. You know, with Clue, how unhinged it is at some moments. Like
the telegram woman being shot in
so
the chest.
Good.
I like
good.
Literally, I'm like sitting there watching this unfold, and I'm like, I can just imagine the moment I'm writing a sketch with Jake, like when we were back in college, and he would just introduce a bit like that, and I'd be like, that's fucking genius. That's gold. So watching that in film form, I'm like, oh my God.
That shit had me dying. Oh,
it's
God.
so good.
It's very good.
Sorry to cut you off, Alex. It just
no. I want to also, part of my instinct is to imagine Jake in these scenarios. Like, what's he doing in Clue, you know? Like, who is he gonna be? Like, he's locked in that house with those people. I feel like it gets crazy.
I would love to be locked in a house with those people. Oh my God, I would love that so much. The cast is insane. I mean, Tim Curry, yeah, but Christopher Lloyd randomly being in this movie. Oh boy, it's so funny. There's that one person who always gets confused as Susan Sarandon in this movie.
Yes.
For a long time, I thought it was her, but it's not. And now I want to actually give her name. It is Eileen Brennan. Eileen Brennan is the name of her. She was great as Miss Scarlet. Oh my God, I love the scene where Miss White's just like flames on the side of my head.
It's so out of nowhere. It's so good.
Yeah, man.
It's so dumbfounding. But on the same coin, like Jake running around being in a house of murder. I mean, he's lived with one. Yeah. But like in the Muppets, on the Muppets level, this man has told me that if there was an experimental surgery that could turn him into a Muppet with a like 15% survival rate, he would undergo the surgery. Like Jake wants to be a Muppet so badly or live amongst them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess, you know, how I could approach this is I could tell different anecdotes about each of these that could like help inform what you think is more me, or not. As you said with the Muppets, Man or Muppet, Oscar winning. I think it's the only Oscar the Muppets have ever won as a property. Was that song? I when I saw that, I cried. I genuinely cried at Man or Muppet, and I don't know if it was something deep inside me that I was like, "Is this my existential? Like, is this it? Is this what it boils down to? Did someone write how I feel on paper?" And it just like, oh, it goes so hard. But also, the Rainbow Connection is one of
really good.
It's a really good version. I just think this one. I was so proud of this Muppet entry because, you know, I'd been going off of I Love Muppet Treasure Island, Muppet Christmas Carol, like all these older, you know, like movies about like the Muppets. And I was like, guys, no, they're good. And then seeing the 2011 film and getting the gratification that like everyone still loves the Muppets 1 and 2, like they are still good for like a modern audience, made me so happy. And it just... I think it's one of the better of like all of the Muppets because it introduces for a new audience in such like a good way. Like it characterizes all the Muppets in such a fun way. And it's both of these. The jokes are just like, they're just bits like flown at a wall over and over. Communism is a red herring over and over again.
Good.
It's such a funny bit in Clue. I literally, even when I was a little kid, I had no idea what the fuck that meant, but I thought it was just like so funny.
The way they deliver it. It just like you, even without getting the joke, you get the joke.
Yeah,
you know?
And that's
like
so
the energy
good.
with which that movie carries.
And I definitely, as a kid, would like, you know, do a lot of bits where I didn't know what I was saying, but I knew people thought it was funny, you know, like much smarter than I am. And like the physicality of Tim Curry too, when I saw him do the I know who the murderer is and like running around when he like it is so feral, and I like felt so good in that, watching that scene over and over again, because it's like, ooh, I love that, and I want to be that so bad. And it's also like it's a little mystery. It's a little like, it's still like the atmosphere, you know, you have the raid and the mansion, and you know, everyone knows me on the Tough Cut. I love spooky shenanigans and stuff. And so that's big for me too. So man, oh man, I don't know how I'm going at all.
You know, it's like the Muppets versus the Muppet energy versus the Tim Curry energy. You know,
it's kind of like tragic that this is our first matchup. I feel like, you know, in a lot of ways, and I feel like we're going to say this for a lot of these movies too, but I feel like these two could have been a finals matchup for real. Like
dead ass for real.
FR.
on God.
100 100.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, Ooga Booga. Let's just make up some shit.
Yes.
Bunga.
Bungus.
True. Many people are saying this.
Big if true. Yeah.
Anyway, was there? Where were we going?
I have no idea what I was going to say.
Okay. Something that I think is like definitely worth talking about, at least touching on in some capacity. The endings of both these movies, and like the multiple endings, obviously, that are encompassed by clues. There is, I think, a lot to appreciate in both of them. Obviously, Clue, like you get the satisfaction of the solution to the mystery that is humorously enough been written in such a way there can be multiple versions of that.
So smart, so good.
Or as the modern video on demand versions, you now get a what could have happened, or an ending, what could have happened, then what actually happened.
Yeah.
Which, might I say, is the what actually happened ending is just
so
truly brilliant.
It's great. And that's the correct decision from the editing perspective. So funny.
Paired with like the ending to the Muppets being just like this crazy uplifting, like, yeah, people do still love the Muppets.
Yeah, man.
Which like accompanied with, you know, sort of the revitalization to them that this series is sort of trying to carry, or that this movie's trying to carry, I think is just really awesome to see. And also capitalism being defeated via head injury is sick.
We got capitalism, we got communism. What are we gonna,
Yeah, both of these films.
Oh, so funny.
I feel like the Muppets has kind of a difficult task, you know, because it's like, okay, you're going to see a Muppets movie, and the whole idea is that they're like begging and pleading with the audience to be like, the Muppets are still funny. Like, people like the Muppets. People still like the Muppets. And it like totally succeeds at that, which I feel like is really difficult to do. You know, it's like, it makes me think of the like play version of Peter Pan, where like Tinkerbell is dying and the audience has to clap to bring her back to life.
What if they don't? What happens?
It just like sucks every time, I feel like.
You know? Wait, what happens if they don't clap? Like do they edit curtains? That'd be really funny.
No, I feel like whoever's Peter Pan finds one little kid who's really clapping, and they're like, you're bringing Tinkerbell back to life. That really makes it cute. But like, I don't know. I feel like the Muppet succeeds at that in a really special way that's really hard to do. You know?
Yeah. I mean, with the Muppets, it's just like, I didn't even realize how much I'd miss seeing a fresh adaptation of them. And I also, you know, cried at like pictures in my head. Like when he was going, it's Kermit just walking down in his mansion with all the old Muppets. I was like, damn, I missed them. Like the pathos, like I want to see them. Like, oh God. I love the bit when the chef is just like, return to her to Chicky. And it's just, like, it's just so funny, man.
They're both chock full of good bits, you know, like, if nothing else. Yeah. But I totally get where you're coming from though, Alex, like this idea that it has that uphill battle, so to speak, in terms of Muppets. I feel like
kind of in a similar way, Clue has this uphill battle of like, well, everyone knows Clue.
It's a board game movie. Like, that's all they had.
That's tough.
Which,
like, they had bits to go off of that, like, they work into the movie as like plot points that I think in a lot of ways could feel incredibly forced, but the movie in its multiple endings, in like everything that it does, it really like digs in and like makes it feel really good. And like, it doesn't just feel like a standard murder mystery, you know? Like, Clue, I really feel like does its own thing, like with the multiple endings, everything, like
just the energy it carries. Like,
yeah, it feels very unique.
It was a movie that like didn't, for all intents and purposes, like it probably wasn't going to be good. I mean, you think of any, like it's hard to adapt just like a game, you know, some board game movies work. Obviously, Jumanji worked. Zathura. Another Matthew Brackett movie. Works.
I'm building a narrative. I'm gonna have them predict what's gonna be in the Matthew bracket one day.
But like I love that Clue succeeds despite like it all. Like I love that like they put so much effort, and even like the actors, the script, like the production design, like they put so much effort into this small little thing because they're like, it just felt like a movie they made because they thought it'd be fun. And I kind of miss that energy in like Hollywood movies a lot, and that's why like, that as a little kid watching that, as someone who works in like the industry, I aspire for that. I aspire that I can like, someone will trust me enough to make a silly little movie that I have a silly little idea on, and everyone just gives 110% on. Like seeing that is just so exciting, frankly, and because that it can be made, and so it should be made, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
I know both of you kind of already touched on it, but just I feel like it deserves restating that adapting a board game into a movie is such a deranged idea. Yeah. Like you have so little to go on.
Mouse Trap, Mouse Hunt, it's a
Jumanji.
I feel like it seems like if they were trying to make like a Sorry the movie, right? Like what could that even be, right? Like
that movie's called Sophie's Choice.
I feel like it would be like the worst version of Tron. Like most board games, they would just like, it'd be a Tron thing, and you're in a computer and you have to do a competition.
I'm sorry, the Tron movies slap.
We'll get there one day.
Probably for Matthew Brackett.
The Matthew
Jeff
Brackett.
Bridges is hilarious in this.
I will die by Tron Legacy.
As you should, man. Like, I have nothing but positive memories, which almost makes me not want to watch the movie again.
I will die. I died by it then. I'll die by it now. But Clue versus the Muppets. Not getting too far away from our topic at hand.
This is the Jake Brackett. If he wanted to, he could just spur of the moment replace one of these movies with Tron Legacy.
Honestly, that would be kind of wild. We vote our way to a final, and Jake's like, actually, I don't like this.
Actually, I was really feeling Over the Hedge this weekend, so I'm thinking Over the Hedge.
Let's switch it.
Well, guys, I mean, look, unless you guys got more to say or you got more questions for me, either way, we might have to vote here soon.
Not like super important, but worth addressing.
Mm-hmm.
Gonzo's a domestic terrorist, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's your point?
Okay. I just wanted to like air that out to make sure it's like in the air. Like he blows up that toilet factory. Like there were probably employees in there, right?
Just chickens.
Oh, okay. That makes it okay.
Yeah.
He fucks a chicken continuously. That's like canon. Like he's like in a relationship with those chickens.
Huh.
Plural. Yep. I don't know if that came across in your reading of the film, Matthew, for seeing it the first time. But
that's the deep lore. I'm gonna have to go.
That's real. That's like I'm not even like I wish I was doing a bit. I really wish I was doing a bit. I'm not.
I'm gonna have to go check out a couple of Muppet theorists on YouTube and really like dig into.
You might run into some. You might. I don't know if you want to Google Gonzo chicken.
We barely talking this whole time. Did barely even touch on Miss Piggy, who has, I feel like, such a wonderful arc in this film.
Wonderful role in this film.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna set us toward continuing to talk about Miss Piggy because I am going to vote for the Muppets. I think it's hard to describe, especially to our audience who's never seen Jake in person. But God damn it, he's so close to being a Muppet. I can't like if you saw Jake on the street, you'd be like, God damn, this motherfucker loves the Muppets.
And to most people, that's an insult. to most people, I want to be very clear. Matthew's reaction is not wrong. Hurtful, but not wrong.
I can't describe this vote in any way other than that. I love Clue, and I know Jake loves Clue too, but for me,
I love all these movies, so all of them will be heartbreaking, but also understandable.
I just can't imagine Jake without the Muppets. I feel like that world would be so sad. And so that's where my vote is going.
That's the thing that's so tough is like, I can't imagine a world where Jake didn't have the Muppets and also didn't have Tim Curry, you know?
Yeah, it's tough.
Fair.
However, in my lifetime with Jake.
Mm-hmm. And it has been a lifetime.
That's true. A few.
For others.
The things that the moments when Jake has literally cried tears of joy in the time I've known him have been almost all Muppet related.
I need counseling.
And I'm not joking. Like,
yeah, I know you're not.
As a result, I truly think Man or a Muppet gets at like some deep existential piece of your being.
Yeah.
So I think I've got to vote for the Muppets 2011 here.
Yeah, and I'll vote as to not hurt any of my own feelings. Clue will get at least one vote here.
It feels weird voting against the thing. Not voting for the thing that you voted for.
No. I mean, I probably would.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to pick between your children. We pick for you.
No.
Yeah, we have the power here.
I'm creating a voting block with Alex.
Remember when I talked about Sophie's Choice and you literally said, I'm not touching that?
I went there.
It's full circle, baby. That's hilarious. Hey, Muppets is moving on and I'm not upset about it. I love you, Clue. If you guys haven't seen Clue before, oh my God, please watch it.
Oh, you got it.
It's a fun time.
Please do, if nothing for the ending button.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's so good. It's such a funny joke.
It's great. It's great.
So yeah, the Muppets advances. And we've got one more matchup today. Do you want to introduce our two contestants here, Jake?
I sure do want to introduce them because I have to. This is now shifting tone a little bit. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, 2008, directed by David Fincher. It tells the story of Benjamin Button. He's a man who is born aging backwards, and that's pretty. It's so funny. IMDb, the way they say it is a man who starts aging backwards with consequences, and that's all they say, which is hilarious. This movie is my favorite David Fincher film, which is this is like not a popular opinion.
Yeah, it's controversial David Fincher take.
Yeah, it is controversial, but that just shows you how much it means to me personally. And I won't say anything else because I want to hear your guys' thoughts first. So, Alex, bring it to me. Why do you think I did this? And tell me what you thought.
I think Jake picked this movie because he was born as an old man too.
Fuck, damn it! How do they know? They nail it every time.
You know, I think Jake picked this one because there's something about a story. Jake loves a story about finding new ways to experience life. You know, like he really loves a story about finding the beauty in life. And I think this movie has a really interesting way of doing it. Yeah, I think that's why Jake picked this movie. I like it. I'd seen it once before. I watched it on TV, so it was even longer. Because it had commercial breaks.
It is a long one.
It is a long movie, but I like it. It's a good one. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, so this one is tough in the sense of like why Jake picked it. Like, I know it's a movie that matters a lot to you.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who has other thoughts about David Fincher's filmography,
you're doing Brad Pitt's Southern drawl in the movie.
I see why you love it, and like what, like I think that there's something to like how this story is about like living a unique life or a life that is valuable in its own sense. That I think has some like aspirational qualities to how you live your own life, that you know, seek to live a life unique in its own sense. It's a film I generally enjoy. I think there are a few movies of David Fincher's filmography that I dislike. Not my favorite Fincher, as I mentioned before. I put it in the realm of like experientially, it's a film similar to like Forrest Gump and Big Fish.
Yeah.
I think I prefer this to, for sure, Forrest Gump. I'm not sure where I put this versus Big
Fish. He's a big fuck Forrest Gump fan. He's a big
this, but unironically. I don't hate it. It's just like
he fucking hates it.
We'll talk about it one day. Though I do think, as someone who normally loves long movies, I think the long bracket has given me like some kind of permanent mental thing about sitting down to watch a movie over 2.5 hours long. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean,
fortunately, it's like 2 hours and 36 minutes or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I was a little worried, admittedly, about putting this in because of the long bracket.
Really?
I knew that it might be a little long.
That bad. It wasn't that bad.
This one to me, I think I don't know why. This is one of the trickier ones about like kind of pinning why it's such a Jake movie, but it is viscerally a Jake movie. It's in my like top five like defining ones when I asked that question. I think it boils down to that ending, really. I mean, sure, it's also set in New Orleans. New Orleans is a very special place to me as well. Benjamin Button travels like a lot, sees like other things. Like I did that as well a lot. But I think at the end, when, all of a sudden all these things are happening, and then all of a sudden it just goes to like all these different people that he's met. And remarkable stories, all these different kind of stories and whatever. But he just boils it down to a sentence. It's just like, some people swim, some people know buttons, some people, and these are people who like changed his life and outlook, and like that he just remembers in a very beautiful way. And he just boils it down to like one sentence or one word. And I like tear up and I cry every time. I think that's such a beautiful way to approach life, to where you could live the most lavish life at all, whatever. If you are about to, pass or something else happens to you, sometimes you just remember someone so viscerally. And some of them were impactful to me, like when they were just like, some are mothers, like was such a beautiful, like, I think that's Taraji P. Henson's best performance that I've seen. Honestly, I think she's such a great mother and so good at playing a mother in this and how she does. It's a silly film too. There's a lot of things that like are silly and don't make sense, especially at the beginning. You have to do a lot of kind of forgiving to the movie, which is totally understandable. But it's also like a weird little, like, it's kind of like fantasy-esque. So I love that kind of aspect of like storytelling and all this stuff. I don't know. This one just gets me every time. I watched this with other Alex, and sorry, I watched this with a sick Alex, and I cried at the end a lot. Aww. It just was like such a the whole experience of the film is just something that has stuck with me, and I think I give it so much credit because I know other people don't like it, and I see the problems with it, but it still sticks with me. So that's why I picked that one. We'll move over to the next one. It's Such a Beautiful Day, 2012 by Don Hertzfeldt. This is a doozy as well. This follows the main character, Bill. It's an animated film as he struggles to put together his shattered psyche, is the best synopsis that I saw online and that I could kind of go with here. What I'm going to throw back to you guys. So, Matthew, what you got?
Yeah. I think your reasons for picking this, or your reasons for loving this movie, are presumably pretty complicated. One, I know you are just a big fan of Don Hertzfeldt's work.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to love here. Beyond that, I think that this film has a pretty, honestly, weirdly enough, the way that this bracket shakes out, weirdly or similarly, in an odd way, it has similarly profound ways or profound things to say about how we choose to live our lives, especially when you take that ending sequence where they're describing the Bill lives and lives forever sort of thing. All the things that he will do has some certain like aspirational qualities to how we choose to perceive what our life is meant to be, or what our life is meant to amount to, so to speak.
Yeah.
But then also there is this angle that this movie delves pretty deeply into some complicated discussions of mental health, which I think is just like hard to not appreciate, regardless of who you are. With all of that sort of said, I think it's a really, really special movie. It's hard to accurately describe why. Just the way it chooses to explore mental health, and then the ending it decides to sort of give to that story, still remaining or having kind of the optimistic undertones, I think is just really valuable.
Yeah.
Alex?
Yeah, I mean, the first time I watched this movie was in class with you guys in history of animation. So it's very cool to, I guess, come back to it now. And, after, being in that class and talking about it in that class, like knowing how important it is to you, Jake, I think similar to what Matt said, I think you picked this movie in part because of, its story about living life and things like that, as well as, its conversations on mental health. But I also think partially in like the unique and interesting story of its development of like being released in 3 parts and then put together. Like, I think that's something that is very cool and unique about this movie. I think it's a really special movie. It feels like a passion project, just in every bit of it. And yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah. This one's, I mean, admittedly difficult too, because it does tackle some very serious stuff, and it doesn't leave you feeling the best, even if it does have like an optimistic point of view at the end, at least in my reading of it. But I think that when I was picking this list, I think it's important because we're talking about films, all this stuff. We are a comedy podcast, but and it is a funny film. Also, there's some very funny parts about it. Like Don Hertzfeldt is a master of like building something that's funny but also very sad in one, and I think that's also something that it's very, very aspiring. But films don't always like make you feel good, but you also still like them. I think that's why I'm driven to horror. That's why I'm driven to things that can make you sad, but it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. Like, cinema is a machine that generates empathy, that like famous quote. So I think having this silly little on paper film, especially when you look at it, just looking at any still from this movie will have you be like, what the fuck is this about? Yeah. And then just by the end, you are totally gripped, totally like, oh my God, how am I feeling this way? And look, like we live lives. I would love it if everyone lived a life where they feel happy all the time. That's not true. It's not true for me. It's not true for other people I've been close with in life. The happiest people that I've known. And I'm known to be a pretty like happy-go-lucky guy, and I feel like I am genuinely, but things can get tough, and they can get internally tough too. And just the way that this film approaches an internal monologue of feeling bad but still approaching life and this optimism, I think it's beautiful. It's special. So it every now and again I just like have to watch this film, and so it stuck with me.
And I think I want to change optimism. It's like there's like a bittersweet quality to it. Might be a better term to use.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because it doesn't make you feel like kittens and rainbows and puppies at the end, but it's
a film that's going to make you feel weird, but I think it manages to say profound things about sort of the value of living. I think is kind of where it's coming from. And sort of what you were getting at, that like life is never going to be only easy, but is still valuable in and because of those contexts, or because of those things that aren't easy.
Yeah.
I think that bittersweet maybe more accurately describes the optimistic undertones, with the word undertone carrying a lot of that, doing a lot of weight there.
There's a lot of weight.
Yeah. I think this is a really interesting matchup because I feel like both of these movies so much, fall in this basket of looking at life in new ways and like finding beauty in small things or little things that you wouldn't normally see, and the things that people do love and do look for, looking at those in new ways too. So I think it's really fascinating to kind of take both of these stories and talk about them in the context of Jake, because I feel like Jake is someone who like finds beauty in all these different things and all these different ways and is always okay.
True.
But no, please continue.
Well, you're a special person. I still like on my key ring, I have the key to happiness that you gave me. Like,
I don't know. Hell, you never gave me a key to happiness.
I tickled your pickle that one summer in Daytona.
You ever get sauce that one might call unholy?
Yeah, that was your key to happiness right there. Our key to happiness moment was watching Isle of Dogs and what proceeded to happen afterwards.
Whoa. That is like we've been doing this podcast for 10 years before we bring that story up.
I just give them a little taste, and like I want the fanfics to picture what happened and then run with it. 10 years we'll talk about it.
Did a lot of running in the rain that day.
You're giving more information.
I'm sorry, that's all. That's all.
Giving more.
We need to titillate the fan artists. That's all.
I'm titillated. Titillated.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to kind of gather in terms of comparing these two movies. Is I don't know if they like share thematic elements, but this idea of like causing you to maybe look at life a little bit differently.
Yeah, it's like the feelings you get after you watch them are I think similar in some interesting ways.
Yeah.
Pick me apart. Yeah, pick me apart. Dive in there. Get real deep. Yeah.
Well, it's like interesting because I feel like both of these movies put me in this mood where I want to just like quietly go on a walk, you know, and just like notice the little things around.
It's beautiful outside today. I think you'll take a walk around the block.
Oh God,
exactly.
A great sequence. Love that.
Which is interesting, I think, in the context of thinking about Jake, because Jake, I feel like I don't know that I picture you going on like quiet walks. I feel like because you just do that, like you express that with other, like when you're walking with me to class, like when you would walk with me to class, it'd be like, hey, do you see that thing on the pavement? It looks like a little skull. And we'd like notice that together. And I feel like, I don't know, it's interesting. Like these movies make me feel like I'm thinking and acting like Jake.
They are. It is the Jaket. Jaket? Is that the official term we went with? The
I don't know.
Jake bracket jacket?
Could be the jacket.
I don't know. It's cozy.
Aw. Cozy like that.
That is kind of cozy. A little warm. Happy winter. Wear a jacket.
Yeah, I admittedly am dreading this matchup, and I was dreading it the most because these are two of the more serious movies that I picked, and it's very hard to dive into that. And also, sometimes I watch these movies, I don't know why I feel that way. So it's also like in my head being like, geez, why is this built like hardcore of my noggin? You know,
I guess a topic of conversation, something we can dive into a little bit. I think that Curious Case of Benjamin Button stands out amongst David Fincher's filmography in a really interesting way. A lot of the other stuff he has done, they all have certain
true crime.
yeah. I mean, sometimes yes, thematic and tonal sort of through lines, and I think Benjamin Button kind of bucks some of those trends. Like it is very different than things like Fight Club and Zodiac and Gone Girl and Seven and Social Network.
What do you mean?
There's no like, big turn to darkness. Like it. Why is this the film you love most from his filmography? Like what stands out so much? Is it just the type of story that this is? Is it like how it leaves you feeling? Like, what do you love so much about this film in terms of Fincher's filmography?
In terms of Fincher, I mean, I think it's because Fincher made this movie. As you were saying, like it's something about it probably also just tickled him. He read this story that, it's loosely based on a story. And he was just like, I have to make this, for all intents and purposes, silly little movie. And it does not match the tone of his other stuff. And I think I enjoy the perplexity of someone who can make something that he knows that he's good at and that he loves doing, and then just be like, but I'm also a totally different person too at the same time, and I can make Benjamin Button and have Brad Pitt in this makeup and
true, and then look very hot later in the film.
Look very hot later in the film, and
man, what a glow up!
What do you call it when they go from old to hot though? You know, because are they glowing up or are they glowing down? I'm sorry to interrupt your real thought with the dumbest thing I've ever said.
They're just glowing. They're just glowing. I just think that you have to be a certain amount of brave as a filmmaker, especially I imagine as an established filmmaker, to make something that's out of your comfort zone. And to actually challenge yourself to do it. Or you could be James Cameron and just make the same movie over and over. But
hey, on track, $1.7 billion or something, baby.
Wow, congrats. You know how to make money.
It's okay. We'll talk about it next bracket.
Oh, yeah. Oh, don't you dare. No, please. Please, for the love of God, don't make me watch that movie. Oh, I will bury my...
I feel like if we put that movie in our Oscars bracket this year, you just won't watch it.
Who knows? I believe in watching movies and all that. No, in regards to David Fincher, that's probably why I'm drawn to it. I think there's an inherent silliness of it. There's this moment in Curious Case of Benjamin Button, the hummingbird, that shows up on like after the war-torn ships and all that stuff, and then like talking like the captain, the sea captain. Love him, by the way. Love that character. Great character. But there's this short story that's my favorite short story ever, and it's called Joyes Voladoras, which is the Latin for hummingbird, and it's about the heartbeats of a hummingbird and how they spend it so fast, but they live these like full lives, and how we spend our lives and as we spend our heartbeats, because that's how they like talked about spending your life. And I had no idea the connections. All of a sudden, I'll be watching this movie that I loved, and I didn't really know why, and then they literally reference one of my favorite short stories that I didn't know why I liked it, and it's just like, oh, it's clear that there are people out there that are reaching these same conclusions of me, creative people, and that are and it's like that's beautiful. That's like a beautiful thing to randomly like have. It's basically like when you introduce one of your friends that you really, really love to another friend that you really, really love, and you don't know if they're gonna like each other, and then they end up fucking loving each other,
and then they end up fucking.
Well,
I wonder what that experience is like.
Yeah, we don't have to air out our dirty laundry on the podcast. But
say every time I introduce Jake to anyone. I can't keep him off him.
Can't keep him off. And he gets really upset.
He was my friend.
Yeah. So I think that's it. Yeah, it's just how simple both of these films can be, but how complicated they are. And on the surface, they can, if you give the pitch to both these movies on the surface, they're very silly. In one way or another, but then they're just so much more, and that's how I like to view myself. A lot of times.
And I think that's one of the really interesting characteristics of the Curious Case of Benjamin Button, because I feel like it's a film that likely suffered from some mismarketing. Like, I guess you can watch it at purely surface level, and that's like totally acceptable too. But the sort of, the thematic exploration that it goes through, I think, goes a lot deeper than just man ages backwards. It espouses some things on what it means to, live a life well lived.
I agree to an extent, but at the same time, what's it like to be a wrinkly baby?
Why he not big, though?
Why he not big? Hey, sometimes you get small. You lose your gains when you get old. I'm sorry, Matthew. You're going to have to deal with that.
Never.
I saw
he
that
just flexed something fierce. I wish you guys could see. It was beautiful.
We don't record this for that reason.
I do.
Oh, God. No, that's for personal use.
And it'll be used.
But again, to give credit to, it's such a beautiful day. I mean, it's the same like something about that artwork just really the fact that they sell the intense things that they're getting across with this artwork is just really so impressive. Good. Like, it's really impressive. And I'm like, oh my God, if I had like, I love like indie filmmaking as well and all this stuff. And like, if I had an ounce of artistic talent like that to be able to articulate my thoughts in such a crude but beautiful way, oh my God.
If someone is capable of making people shed tears by showing a stick man that they've watched over the course of the past hour drift away into the endless void of space, for he is immortal and cannot be killed, and make you cry seeing that, that's pretty impressive. And Don Hertzfeldt, the same guy who brought you My Spoon Is Too Big.
My anus is bleeding.
brought you all of this.
But I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy who can tell you my anus is bleeding and then make you cry in a stick figure. Like that's me, man. You know, that's woo. It's tough, but luckily I don't got to vote until last. So
yeah, I guess that's true.
Man,
we are in theory supposed to vote. Me? Yeah, I guess I can because you started last time or whatever.
He's so disappointed.
I don't know what me going second would change. It's not like I'm going to change my vote.
You don't know. Alex could have said something really eloquent that changed your mind.
Okay, that is fair. Yeah. Remember we used to write our votes down? What the hell?
God, I still do.
Crazy. I don't.
Anyway.
I don't. I do not. I don't do it.
I'm watching you. I would see you do it. That's such a... You don't know. It's a lie for the benefit of the audience. It's like, why are you saying...
I'm sorry. I care about our audience, and it's not just about us. Like, fuck off.
Okay. I care about only you for this bracket.
Thank you. Okay, I'll take that.
I'm gonna vote for It's Such a Beautiful Day. I think they're both valuable films to talk about, and I think they capture very special pieces of Jake as someone who is currently working with you in a creative capacity. I feel like It's Such a Beautiful Day, at least to me, in some sense, captures the aspirational creative qualities, a lot of that I see in you. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with that.
This is just like a stroke Jake's ego bracket.
Yeah, this bracket, I feel like, is just gonna
I can't wait for y'all to watch one and absolutely hate it and be like, you stupid bitch, why the fuck did you pitch this piece of trash?
They call him shit-faced Jake.
And then you vote it up and it wins the finale. They're like, Jake is a piece of shit and so is this film. And that's why it's number one.
Wow.
It most represents you.
Well, that's why Mouse Hunt would win.
Fucking bastard.
I am going to vote for Benjamin Button.
Oh, fuck.
He must pick between his children.
I didn't want to have to make it so hard for you, Jake, but here's my reason for voting for Benjamin Button.
Yeah.
I feel like our friendship, I can map out from the moment I met you to seeing you around campus every so often and not knowing you, but just seeing you everywhere. And
those binoculars came in handy.
Yeah. And then I remember we had started to actually become friends. Us and a group of a bunch of other people did that thing that you do in those coming of age movies where you go up on the roof and you just look up at the stars and have deep and profound conversations. And I remember talking about your search and your belief in genuine human connection. And I feel like that's so much what Benjamin Button is about, is finding people who touch you and change you. And
okay. I'm sorry. the delivery on... Yeah, anyway, sorry.
No. Explain why you laughed, actually.
No.
Yeah, explain it.
Keep going, please.
Yeah, you were at fighting people who touched me?
Yeah. Finding the people who've touched Jake. I don't know. This movie, to me, you've always said that it's a movie that's very important to you. And I don't think I really thought so much about why it would be until this. And I'm really happy now that every time I see this movie, I'm gonna think of you.
Oh, damn! He's trying to one up you, Matthew. That's really embarrassing.
I was gonna say that's really, really good reasoning.
I really had to come back from all the people who've touched him.
Damn.
You can blame that one on Matthew, honestly.
Yeah, you can.
He had no rebuttal. There is
nothing. That's fair.
Ooh. Yeah, and as one of the people who've touched me too. Both.
Most places.
Yeah, this is, man, I'm gonna hate doing this bracket if you guys don't reach a unanimous thing. I'm gonna go with Benjamin Button. And it breaks my heart anytime these brackets will happen, but I think Alex hit a real head on the nail talking about a word I use way too much genuine and human connection. Yeah, way too much. But yeah, it's just boiling it down to that. And as much as it's such a beautiful day, it makes me feel a certain way that just really captures something really important, I feel, to me. I think Curious Case is also doing that, but also it's also confirming a lot of thoughts that I didn't know how to articulate in my head. And then seeing it on screen felt very gratifying. Ask me in a week, I don't know. I could have an It's Such a Beautiful Day. But yeah, that's who moves forward. Benjamin Button, BB. Your guys' turn to talk.
Yeah, so with that, we have our first semifinals matchup. It will be the Muppets 2011 versus Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which should be a lot of fun.
They're the same movie, really.
I think so. I remember when Benjamin Button was asked to earn $10 million, or himself and his, daughter he abandons will be killed. I don't know. I couldn't...
That's a really gross way of saying how the film actually went down. But yeah, that fucking daughter that he fucking abandoned and didn't give all that money to, he did.
Anyway, coming at you next week, though, we've got 4 more Jake picks, and they're pretty good.
These are fun.
We've got One Cut of the Dead versus Spirited Away, and Coherence versus In and of Itself. So it should be a very interesting bracket.
You guys should definitely check these out if you haven't seen them before. I know that some of these aren't as big name recognition wise, but they're fun movies. In and of itself does talk a little bit also about mental health, so keep an eye on that and some intense themes. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoy the movies and you're getting to know me as an audience and these guys get to know me as a podcast host, because that's the only 2 ways you can get to really know someone.
True. Evolution of man. Yeah, so if you enjoyed today's episode, you can rate and If you enjoyed today's episode, you can rate and review the show on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. We're on all of them. If you liked what you heard, who should they share today's episode with?
Share it with me.
Share it with Jake. Also, share it with someone who
is a man or a Muppet.
The world through special glasses. Who looks at the world in a special way. Makes you feel good about it. Makes you feel good about the world. Looks at the world in a special way.
Share it with an old baby.
I know like 10 old babies who are gonna love this episode. Oh god.
Yeah, but make sure they're legally allowed to listen to explicit content on Apple Podcasts, because this show is marked for E. Explicit.
Everyone.
I don't know what's happening.